bullet in each head, and that's how they disposed of them. And the question is, why did they veer away from this method of killing and switch to poisonous gas? And there have been historians who have asserted that it was too costly. Bullets cost a lot of money back then. And in my very humble opinion and research, I disagree with that explanation. It doesn't make sense to me, because when you add up the cost of all of the cattle cars needed to take Jews, for example, from Greece all the way on a 9-day journey to get them to Auschwitz, when you talk about all of the logistic management, the infrastructure, you talk about all the cremation ovens that are needed, all of the coal that's needed in order to generate the heat for them, you talk about the gas that needs to be purchased, you talk about all of the living quarters that need to be built in order to run these factories. In my humble opinion, it doesn't add up that it was a money saver. Rather, it seems to be that the reason was twofold, but with the same common denominator. The common denominator was mess. The first mess was the physical mess. If the Germans are encamped next to a forest and there's no big army base, they have a tent set up for the few days of shooting that are going to transpire there, it is not practical for them to be getting involved in bloody activity where they're going to have blood on their pristine uniforms, right? For a German soldier to have any stain on his uniform is horrendous. And there wasn't going to be a washing machine that was nearby for him to clean it. So by veering away from shooting and heading to poisonous gas, that was able to prevent mess. Physical mess, that is. The second explanation for why they seem to have moved away from the shootings is the other mess, the psychological mess that it was causing their soldiers. These young soldiers are seeing these brains explode day in and day out, from children, from adults, elderly men and women, and they're starting to lose their minds. It was to the extent that the German officers who were running such battalions as the shooting battalions quickly learned that they have to do their best to sorry, I'm just drawing a blank for a second. Not desensitize, to distract. Sorry, I apologize. To distract their officers at night, and at night it was commonplace that they were providing unlimited vodka to the soldiers, and in addition that they were also providing women at night, but still it was to no avail. There's the 1st Shooting Battalion that comes to Poland. They're police officers, actually, from the city of Hamburg, Germany. They're the first ones who are given the task to come to Poland. They don't know why they're given the task, but they are actually about to be told when they arrive in Poland that they're here to shoot innocent Jewish families, 1 bullet in each head. Their battalion is called Battalion 101. There's a book written about this battalion. It's by Christopher Browning. It's called Ordinary Men. And they're taken from town to town around Poland to dispose of the Jews via shooting. They're taken to a town called Józefów. Józefów is not far from Lublin, and they don't know why they're there, but then the head officer stands up to make a speech and tell them the following. He says, we're about to do something difficult. We're going to murder all the Jews of this city, and we're going to shoot them in the head. I understand that this is a difficult task for some of you, and therefore I'm not going to coerce any of you to involve yourselves in it. Any of my battalion And remember, just parenthetically, this is a battalion of Hamburg police officers. They were German police. They vowed to serve and protect, not to go to a forest in Poland and put bullets in heads. Any of you who do not feel that you're up to this task, you can stand on the side and watch. However, before you decide if you'll partake or if you will stand on the side, I want you to think about one thing, and that's that as I'm speaking to you right now, there are Allied forces who are air bombing Germany, and there are innocent women and children of our country who are presently being killed. War is a fact of life. Make your decision. And Christopher Browning explains that at the first shooting, many of the soldiers did not partake. However, the second shooting, a few more did, and a few more did, and a few more did. This is the sensitization was very much the case. It was something that was shocking in the beginning, but then it became commonplace, like us stepping on an ant. Also, Browning says that the soldiers, or really police officers, who were willing and were involved in the shooting, they had a special name reference for those who stood on the side and watched. They called them the Scheistköps, which is German for shitheads. They were chastising them. Browning speaks about one relatively moral man who had in the beginning decided to wait on the side, but then at one point he decided to make a compromise. He approaches the commander of the battalion and he says, I am willing to shoot, but only on one condition will I shoot. Okay, what's your condition? I will only shoot children, not adults. I'll only shoot children after you can guarantee me that those specific children, their mother has already been shot. Because then I feel like in any case, what are they going to do? They have no mother. It's a time of war. But other than that, I won't shoot. This was the righteous plea or compromise that he was willing to make. Also documented in history books is that if you went back to the Hamburg police office, there were pictures of these shootings that were hung up on the walls of the police office. They were being glorified, and any of the police officers who had been involved in the shootings was given the ability to order a print of that episode.
Were any busted for war crimes after?
Yeah, but the punishments they got, you know, people got like a few years in jail.
Really?
You know, almost no one really got what they were supposed to get. Over here in this picture, you can see the constitutional diagram for how a forest shooting should take place. This is from Zhytomyr. Zhytomyr is in the Ukraine, not too far from Mezhibozh actually. But in general, this was the practice that the Nazis were supposed to have in all their forest shootings. Can you see?
Does that say 10 meters? No.
Yes, this is going to say 10 meters. I'm going to explain it to you. But can you guys see it? Or now
Yeah.
it's sunny all of a sudden?
No, it's okay.
No,
It's
We got
okay?
it.
Okay. So first A. A is the backstop, right? Because the Germans have to make sure that no innocent man is going to get hit by a ricocheted bullet. So safety comes first. Second, B is a pit. The pit is the mass grave. C, ideally you want to have a mound of dirt that's elevated in front of the pit. That will enable that the bullet will quite literally kill two birds with one stone, in that it will murder the victim, and also the velocity of the bullet will bury the victim in the mass grave. It'll push him over. But pay attention to between C and D. There's supposed to be a minimum of 10 meters. The reason for that is based on the mess. the blood based on also how graphic it is when you're up close and seeing the brain explode. And here we can see an example over here of such a forest shooting. And they're pretty much keeping to protocol approximately 10 meters away. There's the pit over there. The man will fall over into the pit and be buried. And here too, we see from a distance.
These are from the German archives, I presume.
Yes. But over here, we see that the Germans didn't always take their constitution.
Can you hold that more vertical? Yeah.
Oh, handgun just.
You see a handgun to the head. They didn't always take their constitution with the utmost seriousness. Over here you have a brave German soldier who's willing to take on 2 victims simultaneously, a mother and her child. And this also is part of the narrative that I referred to when we were in Treblinka. The Germans, after the war, their greatest defense, their alibi was either we were going to kill or we would be killed. And it's just not true. For example, if you didn't want to kill, you stood on the side. You should know that throughout Holocaust research, literature, academic information, there's not one documentation of a German soldier who was ordered to hurt or kill a Jew and refrained from doing so and was punished. There was, never mind being killed, there was never a punishment. You always had the ability to opt out. We see over here 10 meters. Okay, when we want to make 10 meters the rule, we'll do that. If we don't want, we won't. We saw pictures, many pictures from concentration camps. Part of the Nazi constitution was you can't take any pictures in concentration camps. They did it both in Auschwitz and in Treblinka. Sergeant Rommel, the Desert Fox from World War I, he was the most decorated German soldier. And in World War II, he decides he wants to drop out. He's not interested in this type of Germany. It's corrupt. He drops out. He doesn't get arrested. Nothing happens to him. And a uniqueness that we have over here in this cemetery is that we have here mass graves sporadically of both Jews and non-Jews. Here we have approximately 7,000 Jews who are buried after being shot, and we have approximately 3,000 Poles who have been shot. These Poles opposed the Nazi Party. They were worse than the Poles that we met earlier today, who were just intelligent, and because of that, they were sent to Auschwitz. These ones actually opposed, and therefore they were killed. So it's an anomaly in that in Poland, it's the only cemetery we know of where it's shared both by Jews and non-Jews. But there's another unique characteristic to this cemetery. That's that in the summer of 1942, when the shootings were happening here, there was a farmer who lived in this area. This area is more populated now than it was back then. And he heard all the noise, and he came out of his house by that hill over there, and he looked down to see what was happening. And he saw the forest shootings, but he saw that over here, where it's demarcated with the blue fence, there wasn't a forest shooting. It was the babies and the toddlers and the children. And they weren't killed with bullets, probably for one of 2 reasons, if not both. One, why spend the money on a bullet to kill a kid when you can easily kill him or her with your hands? Number 2, if you're going according to protocol and you need your target to stay there 10 meters away from you, how are you going to get a little kid to stand there 10 meters away right in front of the pit? And he witnessed that the German soldiers were taking the kids by their legs and swinging them and having their heads hit the trees in this area. And once their skulls exploded, they threw them into the pit. And when we go down there, we'll see that the matzeva, the tombstone, reads, "Here lie," it says it in Yiddish, 800 Seklapta Kepelech for Yiddish Kinder. 800 children who have their skulls exploded and were thrown into this grave. And we're going to move down there. We'll try to find a little area. You see that it's commonplace to have groups bringing balloons or flags or other little toys there symbolically. But these children are not strangers to us. I'm talking specifically about our group, we know these children because just a couple of hours ago, we were in their great synagogue of Tarnow, singing Hamalach HaGoel, celebrating with them Simchas Torah, and these are those children. We're going to head down. Please follow me.